Welcome to the bjackfly show. Here we not only train your brain, but your brawn as well. Hey, bjackfly nation, how y'all doing today? This is part 2 of a very important series that we are calling Cutting. Remember, the bjackfly is not your doctor. Always check with your healthcare professional. Read all disclaimers in the video. Let's get right into it. We got a lot to cover today, people. We are talking about cutting. If you haven't seen the first video, please go back and watch, because that's important to get the psychology of understanding that Kaika works, that we have control, and that we can do this, and we're gonna do it together. We are gonna lean you out, not just for the short term. We are going to teach you the techniques to not only pull that fat off, but to keep it off for a lifetime. So let's get right into it. Last time we left with this total GDP, we said we're not going to focus on minor things. We're going to prioritize our sleep and all these other things. But what we're going to do is reduce our calories by 250 to 500 after we're done with all the pictures and the puzzle swapping. And then if we need additional caloric deficit after we've pulled enough food where we feel like, no, I actually really don't want to cut any more food. Because you'll know, you're like, no, I'm having these 4 meals or these 5 meals or these 3 big meals. It doesn't really matter how many meals you have. Personally, I like to have like 4 or 5 meals, honestly. If I go more than 4 hours, I'm super hungry and I never want to do this. I usually eat about somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. 6 hours is extreme, but I've done it. Cardio, that's what we're talking about right now though. Let's get into that. So you have to, you will not eat food. You will not follow, I'm not the one who said this, but a lot of people have said this. I think Stan Efferding said it. He said, or somebody said, what's the best diet for me? It's the one you will adhere to. Adherence is the most important thing, meaning the one you're actually gonna do. That's what matters. So we're not gonna eat foods we don't like. We're not going to eat at times we don't like. We're not like, maybe you want to eat breakfast, and in my last video I said I like to skip breakfast. If that doesn't work for you, you're not going to do it. You have to do what works for you, but it has to be enjoyable, because if it's not enjoyable, it won't be sustainable. Enough said. Cardio, same idea. You have to find cardio that's enjoyable. If you hate walking on a treadmill, then just don't do it. Find other ways to do cardio. Maybe you walk your dog a couple extra laps. Especially if you have a bigger dog, he's going to appreciate it a lot more as well. He's going to get more tired, and you're going to have more control over your animal's health and well-being as well. But you have to find cardio that's going to work for you. So I personally rather walk outside, but I do find benefits by walking on a treadmill as well, because it helps me keep my pace and everything like that. So there's definitely benefit with walking on a treadmill. But there's also a lot of benefit with walking outside, because I get nature and fresh air, and I run into people, or I see life around me, and it's very stimulating, and I get ideas for this channel. So I love that. So that's the first step. Find cardio that's enjoyable. And then you have to make sure that you're in what they call zone 2. But I find this to be very sort of controversial. Like, you kind of have to know yourself. Like, I know that, I don't even know what zone 2 is. It's like 130, 135 beats per minute. Your heart rate should be something like that. All I know is I find that I'm not really working at all until I'm about 135 to 145. Usually around 141 heart rate, I'm talking, is where I feel good. Like, I'm doing some work, but you can still think. You're not like panting for air, because you do really want to try and stay somewhat away from highly aerobic cardio. And the reason why I say that is because when you have highly aerobic cardio, it's putting demands on your body where you need carbohydrates for fuel, because you're giving this highly aerobic, where you need oxygen. You're sucking in oxygen. Your body needs to burn carbohydrates for that. Now, if your body doesn't have those carbohydrates, it may convert some of your muscle tissue into energy. And that's exactly what we don't want. We want the body's last resort for energy to come from muscle. We want it to come from fat. So if we do activity where we feel like we're still able to do it and can watch a video or listen to music and we have pretty decent air. I'm not saying like just walk around the block like slow. No, you have to keep a fast pace. You should have a watch that shows your heart rate or something so that you know you're kind of feeling it. You still have to feel it. It can't be easy, but it can't be too hard either. So you got to just find a good balance. And then sometimes you can do a little bit easier cardio for longer. And then at least you know you're staying in that area where you're getting oxygen, you're most likely burning fat. You know, you're probably burning a little bit of carbs too. This is like, you know, it's no like, oh, after this point in heart rate, you're all carbs. And no, it's you know, there's a sliding window, but you just got to feel like you're being taxed, but not too taxed. I know it's very non-descriptive, but you got to find what works for you. Like I said, I kind of like the 141 heart rate when I'm on a treadmill. And then when I'm outside, for some reason, I think it's more like closer to that 130, 125 range. But then I just go a little bit longer outside. So my heart rate might only be in the 120s, 125. But I go a little bit longer and do a few more miles when I'm outside just to sort of compensate for that lack of keeping the pace like I do on a treadmill. So all I can do is share my own experiences here. And they say zone 2, but I think you have to figure out what zone 2 is for you. Everyone's zone 2 is a little bit different. All right, food timing. We kind of covered this a little bit before, but I think like before and after the workout is when you want your most calories and your most carbs, because that's when you're actually going to be expending all that energy. So you really want to try and figure out when do you like to work out and try to get your biggest meals around the food time. Personally, like right before I work out, I do so I can make sure I hit those protein targets that are so important. Since I'm dieting, I'm going to cut right now myself. I have to make sure that I usually have a shake that has enough protein. Like for me, it's quite a lot. But that way I know, and not everyone can do this. Like some people can't handle drinking a shake and then working out. I mean, for me, it's great because I'm usually starving by that point anyway. So I drink the shake and it's quickly assimilated by my body within 30 minutes, not even. And then I'm good to go. So I get my protein. It helps me with getting my protein requirements that way. Getting those higher calories that you get in a shake, especially if you have a lot of scoops of protein and milk. And, you know, we're going to talk about my specific shake, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But try to get your calories before and after the workout is the point. Sleep is important, you know. Sleep is so important. We talked about do not like screw up your sleep for fasted cardio. But if you want to get your cardio in, you know, and you want to watch TV, or you want to like do it at night, or do, you know, a lot of people like Stan Efferding also talks about the 10-minute walks. I mean, I do believe like once you've put food in your body, it's good to get moving to some degree, because your body will readily use the food that's currently in it. So if you didn't have time for cardio, but you just were able to like, you know, maybe you had lunch at your desk and then you're just like able to like slip out for 10 minutes and go around the block a few times at a brisk speed. If you do 3 10-minute walks, you know, maybe you do one in the morning. If you eat breakfast right after that, and then one, and you know, you can slip out. If you're working 12-hour days, you can slip out of the office and just quickly do a 10-minute walk. Just, I think you're not going to lose your job if you, I mean, now some people, I know some traders, I mean, that's a whole different story. They can't even run to the restroom, let alone get a 10-minute walk in. But hopefully most people can take a 10-minute break where they can run around, not run, they can walk briskly around the block. And then this way, if you did that 3 times a day, you have 30 minutes of cardio under your belt, And that might be just enough to get those extra 250. Remember, it's only 250 calories a day. Let's say you're cutting 250 calories out of food, 250 from cardio, that's 500 calories a day times 7. We said that's at least 1 pound. So that's what it's going to take. And it's a very small adjustment. So if you can't schedule regular cardio for whatever reason, because of time constraints, just do it after your meals. That's the best time to do it anyway, because you're utilizing the food that's in the current system. All right, the body is smart. Let's talk about this. You use it or you lose it. This is a huge concept, people. Muscle will get lost if it's not used, period. Okay? Running alone will just lose muscle. A lot of people say, I want to get shredded, I want to get shredded, I want to lose weight for the summer. And then all they do is start running around. But guess what? They're just becoming a smaller version of themselves because they're probably taking in less calories. They're expending more aerobic energy. Their body needs the carbohydrates and calories for a fuel source. And guess where it's going to get it? It's going to strip it off those muscles. And man, it's a shame because that's the last thing you want to go. So if you're just running around all the time, doing highly aerobic things, and you're not prioritizing your resistance weight training, your body's going to say, oh, well, we're like a cheetah. All we need to do is run around. And it's going to say, it's just going to, like I said, use or lose it. The body is smart. It's going to say, we don't need this extra muscle. Look at our activities. We don't need this extra muscle because all we're doing is running and running and running, okay? And the body's smart and it says, well, why do I need muscle if all we're doing is running? I just need endurance. I need this muscle actually for more energy expenditures so we can run further. And it'll start to suck from that muscle and it'll start to turn it into energy so you can go run around. But that's not going to be your end result because now your muscle comes down, your non-energy adaptive thermogenics is going to go down. We're going to talk about NEAT and all these other things. But basically, the less muscle you have on your body, the lower you're basically not going to burn as many calories for free. And we're going to talk about that. The more muscle you have, the more calories you get burned off your body for free. So it's the last thing you want to give up. You don't want to give up the free lunch. You don't want to give up the free money. And you sure as heck don't want to give up the free calories from having more muscle. Even if you're not someone who doesn't want to be jacked, you definitely want the furnace running hot. And the coals for the furnace is the muscle on your body. The more muscle you have, the hotter the furnace is going to run. I don't care if you have no desire to be muscular. You still want to hold on to that muscle, and it's going to hold a lot of dividends as you get older because sarcopenia, muscle wasting disease, and people fall and then they break their hip and then they die. Okay? That's what happens. So you always want to preserve your muscle and your strength and your muscle mass. So yeah, it's very important. So use or lose. So this is why we prioritize our resistance training. If that never changes in a cut, in a bulk, in a maintenance, resistance training is key. With the resistance training, you are training your body to say, you must hold on to this muscle tissue because it is getting demands. It is getting demands to use the tissue, to use that contractile tissue to build muscle or to maintain muscle. It knows that it's going to have to squat and bench and all these other things. And it says, I can't lose that thigh muscle. Even though you're running around all day and you see these long distance runners, they're very lean. Now the sprinters, they have thick quads, but that's different because they are also lifting. Don't think power is a huge output of sprinting. Don't think they're not in the gym squatting as well as doing the short yard dash, whatever it is, 40, 50, I don't know. They're also lifting. Whereas like long distance runners, they don't have to lift because they can just run all day. But guess what? Their legs are going to get small because that's all it is. It says, I don't need muscle on the leg. I just need enough muscle to generate the ability to run, and the rest of it's going towards energy. So again, we talked about NEAT. It's actually on the slide here. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's just the calories you're going to get for free. So I think we kind of covered it. And You have to pressure the muscle by resistance training, and that's also going to help, the resistance training is going to help keep your hormones high. Because when you're doing those demands, you're putting those demands, that stress on your muscles, your body has to inject these hormones. You're getting adrenal, you're getting testosterone increases, you're getting HGH increases, you're getting hormone increases in your body that's going to help you keep anabolically able to sustain that muscle tissue, especially as you're cutting, your hormones are coming down. It's a side effect of cutting. All those hormone levels are coming down. Your body's trying to go into self-preservation mode. As you're cutting fat, as you're cutting calories, your body starts to reduce naturally its hormone levels. One of the only ways to keep them higher is by forcing anabolic demand through resistance training. There is no escape from resistance. If you are not into resistance training, you're not going to make it long term. You're not going to be jacked, and you sure as heck aren't going to have muscles and be lean, most likely. Now, I mean, I don't know. Even people who are just doing pull-ups and push-ups, that's resistance training still, okay? And some people are just naturally gifted with huge muscle bellies and all that, and maybe they can just diet and run around, but most people cannot. So that's why we're talking about it. All right, let's keep going here. Yeah, so I think we covered a lot of this. You're putting the body into a survival mode with the high anaerobic demands. All right, let's talk about this next thing, because this is really, really important. You know, you have to hold yourself mentally accountable, but not by analysis paralysis. But if you don't remember what you're eating, we said go back to the pictures. But processed foods, you know, we need to talk about this, because whole foods, the more whole a food is, now I'm not talking about organic. Organic's kind of a scam. We can talk about that another day. But I'm saying processed versus unprocessed. Whole foods versus man-made foods, let's call it. This confuses the body. One of the most important things that we need to talk here, that this video, this section 2, I don't know, this might be a 4-part series. You confuse the body when you give it processed food, and that confuses the hunger signaling. See, food is the earliest drug that we're exposed to, and we eat processed food and it signals our dopamine centers and we get pleasure from it. And then we eat more processed foods because now it's like a drug. See, we've gotten into this addiction, and our hunger signaling is off, because now our hunger signaling is almost drug addicted. It's signaling to us to eat something for pleasure versus eating something for sustaining our hunger, for fixing our hunger, for helping us build our body, our satiety, keeping us full. That's what the signaling was meant to do. And when you eat less processed foods, you start to rewire your brain to get rid of those, what I would call almost drug addictive like stimulus and bad relationships to food. And you start to reprogram it so that your hunger signaling gets fixed when you're eating foods that your body can actually process. Like you give your body meat. It knows what to do with meat, because meat is real food. You give your body vegetables. It knows what to do. You give it some carbs, some rice, some potatoes, whole foods that have not been processed. It knows what to do with it, and then it will signal to the brain that you are full. That's why when you eat a bunch of vegetables, you get full, because first of all, they're cruciferous, and you can eat a lot of volume with them. And you take in your water. That's a hunger hack we're going to talk about. But your hunger signaling can get reset with more whole foods, and you're going to have less of this addictive behavior to junk food, to sweet food, to over-processed food that is usually high in fat, high in sugar, high in calories, and it's going to wreak havoc on your diet goals. One of the best ways to get this addiction from food out of your system, and again, we all get exposed to it at a young age, and there's, just there's just bad behaviors that happen from parenting on down. Like, you did well, here's a cookie. Yeah, that doesn't always work out well, because then you start getting these hunger cravings, your pleasure sensors get receptive to it, and then you're getting hunger signaling for the wrong reasons. Whereas, like, you should be getting hunger signaling when your body needs food because it needs to fix cells, it needs to repair damaged cells, it needs to get energy expenditure. You want that for the right reasons. So this is also changing your health. And again, this is why we do the pictures, because I'm not telling you to change everything to be whole foods on day one. No, you do it over time, and Kaiko works, okay? That's why the guy with the McDonald's diet, it worked, because he showed that he could just eat a cheeseburger or two every day and still lose weight and be like, hey, I'm on a McDonald's diet. But he cut his calories, and he was expending more energy, probably just from his natural NEAT, as we call it, his natural maintenance level calories. He reduced his calories by taking in some McDonald's, and he was losing weight because Kaiko works. That's the beauty of it. It's a math formula. But did he have hunger cravings all the time? Was it a miserable diet? Most likely. Was he getting in enough calories? Quality calories? Was his body screaming for help? It was getting no nutrition. So his body was signaling all the time, not only to give him food, to fix all the problems that bodies normally do with the food, like your brain and all your cells to regenerate, but it's also getting hunger signaling because now it's conditioned on garbage. And now that's screwed it up too. So you're getting double signaling. A lot of times people make a mistake. They don't eat enough protein. And now they're eating all this other stuff, but they're still hungry because they haven't given the body what it actually needs, which was probably just a piece of chicken, and you would have felt full, and maybe a little bit of a salad. You would have felt full, but you gave it some sugary garbage, and the body's like, well, what do I do with this? And you stimulated your dopamine receptors, which puts a bad feedback loop in your whole hunger signaling. So now you're doubly screwed. You didn't give the body what it actually asked for, and you gave it garbage that actually screwed it up. So we have to reverse that process by giving the body what it actually needs, but it still has to be tasty to you, okay? Or else you won't follow it. So if you like a yam and not a regular potato, then eat the yam. If you want to put a little salt on it or whatever, a little butter, it's still a whole food. Just try your best to eliminate the processed foods. I'm not saying go crazy. Remember, this is not an all-in thing. This is like a little puzzle piece change at a time thing. But it's so important to reprogram your brain to not signal to the body that it's hungry when it actually isn't, or to learn how to mindfully give the body exactly what it needs, and then the cravings will go away. The addiction to food will go away. This is what causes the obesity. This is the problem, is the signaling is screwed up. I can't stress this enough. We have literally, a whole video on this because of this, just of this one topic pretty much. So the hunger signaling is screwed up. You got to fix that. Food is a drug, especially processed food. We have to understand that. I think I'm going to stop this right here at part 2. Please like and subscribe. Again, if you need help with any of this, the bjackfly is here. He will train you. He will coach you. Training at bjackfly. Go to bjackfly.com. Check out my website. We will have a conversation and talk about rates. I'll always be here for you. I will not fail you, okay? I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to structure a program that figures out your palate, that understands these dependencies, these addictions that people have to food. We're going to break them. And we're not going to break them to make it as painful as possible and change your whole diet and then you're going to fall off the wagon. We are going to introduce things and you're not even going to know the difference. And as you're eating better foods, your brain is reprogramming itself. So now you switched out the breaded honey glazed chicken for just a regular chicken with some different type of sauce, but it's less processed, or whatever we're going to do. We're going to do various things. We're going to swap out the processed, the plants that they say look like food, which is one of the worst things they can do. Those are the most processed garbage, okay? They take plants and they super process them to look like meat. So now you really want to eat a piece of meat, but you're eating some processed plant nonsense that looks like a piece of meat, and your body gets confused because it's not a plant. It's it's a plant that's been processed with a bunch of other additives and garbage, and it still has fat, it still has calories, and your body's very confused. You're screwing up your signal, and you would have been better off just eating the regular meat. This is what people don't understand. We're going to fix this. We're going to solve this. But you have to reach out. You have to continue to watch and like and subscribe, and we will get to the bottom of this together. I promise you. bjackfly for now is out, but catch me in the next video because we're going to continue. We're going to make this a 4-part series. We got a lot more to cover, and this information has to be spoken about. It needs to be understood, not just for the one person, but for the masses. Tell your friends. Check out the bjackfly.com. I'm going to keep hitting you with this content that no one else is, or if they are, maybe they didn't quite say it the way I did, and hopefully you like this. Thank you so much.